So many of you may have originally found my channel from videos I made about the quasi-educational conservative YouTube channel PragerU. It's a subject that kind of put me on the map, got me a lot of followers, and it's a subject that my audience is or was very interested in. These days, I've largely abandoned the channel. While I think I'll bring them up very briefly in an upcoming video, the days of PragerU devoted content are kind of behind us. I like to keep things fun and fresh on my channel, and in any case, I don't think I have any deep points left to make about them. Anyway, I say all this because today, in this bonus video, I want to bring back the fan favorite. Let's audit the last few months to a year of PragerU's output and see how they're doing, if they've made anything interesting. Get ready, because this is going to be awesome. Also, this is another audio-centered bonus video. It seemed like everyone really likes those for some reason, so let's just keep that up, because I like making them too. I don't like showing my filthy gams on YouTube. So as I went to PragerU for the first time in a long time, what I was really struck by at first was how decayed and content farmy it all felt. In the past, PragerU's thing was 5-minute videos. They made them roughly once a week, and while there were other uploads, the main event was always quite obvious. These days, it just kind of feels like a mess. They make between 1 and 3 videos a day. The thumbnails all feel lazy and content farmy. Don't get me wrong, the overall channel's views aren't lower now. It just has a different vibe. There's a lot more videos with less than 10,000 views and a much lower sense of cohesion. I don't like it. Anyway, let's pop on their newest 5-minute video called Work to Live or Live to Work, presented by David Banson. Let's just watch through it and enjoy.
Do you work to live or do you live to work? Most people today would probably affirm the former, work to live. Most people would be wrong.
So I immediately think that's a funny start to the video. This guy just asked a question about my opinion on myself and what I do, right? And then when I say my answer, oh, I actually work to live. I don't live to work. He goes, nope, fuck out of here. You're wrong, girl. You're done. Everyone says one answer. They're all dead wrong about why they work.
If you have religious leanings, it's right there in the 10 Commandments. 6 days you shall work, and then rest on the 7th, just as God did. If you don't have religious leanings, well, it's just common sense. A productive and meaningful life means spending more time working than doing anything else in your life. No other activity comes close.
So a lot of conservative rhetoric involves appealing to common sense, but I can't help but feel like it was half-assed in this case. A productive and meaningful life means spending more time working than doing anything else. I don't think that's commonsensical at all. I don't think most people would intuitively just agree with that, and I'm not sure why it's being laid out like it's obvious in a video that's supposed to be arguing, that very claim. Keep in mind, he literally started this video by saying that most people think they work to live, but now that audience has disappeared, I guess, and been replaced by guys he agrees with. It's very odd.
That is, the work we do is central to who we are. Nothing is possible without it. All things are possible if you do it well. If you want to have a family, you have to work. If you want to own a home or give to charity, you have to work. Working is what responsible people do.
I like this section where Banson just blandly describes the benefits of working. If you want a house, you need a job. If you want a family, someone's got to pay for them. If you want a bike, that's going to cost? Yeah, dude, we know. People who work to live also know that. It's actually why they work, right?
Yes, some use their careers as an escape from other serious responsibilities and obligations. But you can be fully committed to your work without letting it take over your life. I dare say you know people who have managed this. The far greater risk to our society is the popular view of work as a chore that simply must be endured. Overachievement is not our problem. Deriding achievement is. We don't suffer from an epidemic of workaholism, but of no-aholism, no passion.
So here we get to the part of the video where he starts really arguing his point, telling us that ambition is good and that people should like working more. This is what I like to call conservative anti-politics, because while it looks like it's pursuing some political agenda, it's really just meaningless pablum. Here's something I think is obvious. Most people are not actually morally opposed to the concept of doing work. Perhaps there are a few people out there like that, but I've never met one. And if someone told me they work to live, told me they found their job tedious and unfortunate, I'd think, maybe they could search for a better job. Maybe their boss isn't being kind. Maybe I think it's a shame that people have such boring jobs and wonder if there's any way we could help them. I don't know. What I wouldn't say to them, though, is some trite platitude about how working is good, actually. Not because working is bad, but because that statement couldn't and doesn't change anything. PragerU isn't going to make retail work fun by reminding people that it's cool. It's nonsense, and it exists only to allow conservatives to avoid any systemic interest in any social problem. And if we jump forward just a moment, we can see what social issues they don't want to think about.
Sadly, however, more and more people are choosing not to work. The labor participation rate, those age 16 and over with a job or looking for a job, divided by the total population, is the lowest it has ever been, excluding the lockdown years. This rate sat around 66% from 1990 to 2008. Now it's closer to 60%. That's about 14 million more adults watching TV, playing video games, or engaged in other non-productive activities, as opposed to experiencing the dignity of work. In the name of compassion, we are making it possible for many people to waste their lives away. Of course, for those in real need, we should provide help, but we are doing a true disservice to our fellow citizens by making it easy not to work.
So Banson here seems to want us to think that welfare is the main thing stopping people from seeking work. Welfare that deprives us of the unfettered joy and pleasure of the salt mines. It's a convenient claim, of course, for a conservative channel to make, and it doesn't seem too true to me. I won't tell you I'm an economist, but I will quote, guys. As Brookings writes, much of the steep decline in the labor participation rate since 2007 is due to ongoing structural differences, such as the aging of the baby boom generation, which they estimate accounts for nearly half of the decline. In addition, declining participation rates among youths accounts for an important share of the overall decline. Lower participation rate among youths may be due to their focus on the higher returns of continued education, or it may be because they have been crowded out of the labor force by the decline in middle-skilled jobs and the greater competition for the low-skilled jobs traditionally held by young adults and teenagers. So nowhere do they mention the amount of welfare given out. It's not part of their analysis, and that makes sense, since Americans don't receive all that much welfare and still benefit generally massively from employment. But this video is only 5 minutes long. We just don't have time to prove out our big welfare beliefs, especially because we needed to take the time and really remind people how working's good. Anyway, the video ends with this touching rebuttal to the concept of work-life balance.
More and more, one hears about work-life balance. So while on the subject, here's a piece of advice for anyone looking for a job. Don't bring up work-life balance in a job interview. For most employers, that's a bright red flag. It's just a euphemism for asking to work less, think about work less, or care about work less. When we refer to a work-life balance, we are pitting life and work against each other. We are presupposing that one is not part of the other, that the two are to some degree at odds. They're not.
You're acting like your job down at the donkey shit factory isn't part of your life, and you gotta stop that. I work as a political pundit and author, and I can tell you that you need to start embracing your vocation more. Get those donkeys in the cart, wait for them to take a shit, put the shit in a box, and send it off to the happy customers. Okay, let's talk about another video called Patriotism, Why We Need It, where this straight up British fuck, Douglas Carswell, has the gall to lecture me on why Americans need to be super patriotic.
Ask sixth graders what they know about George Washington, and they're likely to answer, he owned slaves. Well, that's true. It's only one part of Washington's story.
Okay, did they ask sixth graders about this? Because I'm willing to bet that that's not true and he's literally just making it up. Of course 10-year-old Americans know that Washington was the first president and the general that led the Union in the American Revolution. And if they do know that Washington owned slaves, that's undoubtedly in the context of the other things they know about him, right? Our first president owned slaves. That's a big deal.
For someone who's admired America from afar and has now made it my home, I find this very troubling.
I find it very troubling indeed. Come on, Yanks. Let's get on with it then. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just need to emphasize the point. If Americans wanted pointers on how we should love our country from the fucking British, we wouldn't have fought a war with them and toasted their asses. Have a little respect for the red, white, and blue, gents. How about it? Get the fuck out of here, dude.
Now I see that patriotism being undermined in, of all places, America's classrooms. The 1619 Project, for example, which contends that America was conceived in racism in 1619 rather than in freedom in 1776, is taught in over 4,500 schools. Instead of teaching young Americans to revere their country, the left-leaning educational establishment seems bent on teaching them to be ashamed of it.
America had slavery, and it's a stain on our history, you know? This is what always bothers me about patriotic conservative types. If you love America, it means loving a place that is contradictory and confusing, that has darkness in its past, and that has committed grave evils. I don't think kids are taught to be ashamed of America. I think they're taught that America had slaves, a lot of slaves, and that lineage still has massive implications on the place we now live. Not describing that, not telling that history, not caring about it, doesn't mean you love America more. Okay, so here we get into the stakes of this conversation. You know, patriotism is declining, so what?
Why is this such a big deal? Because patriotism is the glue that holds America together. To love America is to love the values it stands for. Above all, freedom, the value for which America, more than any country in history, has been known. Freedom of speech, freedom to practice the religion of one's choice, freedom to pursue one's own interests with the minimum of government interference. These are the values that unite Americans, not ethnicity, skin color, or anything else.
I find this moment super weird because if that's all patriotism describes, I don't think it is on the decline. Not really. I love freedom of speech and religion. I love liberty and freedom. I love inclusion and immigration. In fact, I'd say that American liberals are far more defensive of these values than much of the conservative party. You know, people who are actively seeking to legislate their religion, enforce Christianity. No, patriotism, the kind that Carswell is upset about, isn't philosophical. It's people saying they love America and buying flags and talking about how great we are.
Patriotism still thrives in much of the country, especially in the South. You can feel it under 1,000 Friday night football lights as the crowd rises for the Star-Spangled Banner. You can sense it in every small-town parade on the 4th of July.
But because that's a stupid thing to care about fundamentally, he has to gussy it up and make it sound massive and principled. It isn't. He says that buying into freedom and equality make you a patriot, but that's just stacking the deck, isn't it? And showing how shallow his argument really is.
Am I suggesting that America's perfect or even close to it? No one's ever made that claim. But before you judge the United States too harshly, you should compare its history with the likes of Germany.
Okay, so he unfortunately got me there. He kind of slayed with that one. Come on, guys, you know, before you judge America too harshly, take a gander at Germany. You know, pretty nasty. They got up to some shit. We're thinking about, I mean, I'm just saying, that's pretty good. I mean, I agree, fundamentally. Let's talk about another video called Wife, Mother, Extremist? Hey there, if you liked that video and enjoyed that little teaser, then you should know that that's only half of it. It's a 25-minute video that I made for my Nebula and Patreon. I have tons of bonus videos on those platforms, and you can go check them out. Links in the description. You know, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's, you know, people seem to like being my Patreon and supporting me on Nebula. Apparently, this is a fun fact that the CEO of Nebula told me. I have like extremely low subscription drop off. Like people who subscribe to Nebula through my link, they don't leave because they like the bonus videos I make, which I found very sweet to know. And I'm just telling you it both to advertise my own skills as a video creator, but also to, you know, sort of gas myself up. You know, check them out. That's all I'm trying to say. Like, it seems like it's worth it.